Hi, I'm Wanda with Jimmy Branch Homestead, and today I thought I would take you on a garden tour since it's been a long time actually. You might have got bits and pieces while I was working in the garden, but wait till you see what's happening. So as I'm coming into the garden, I have a chicken coop on the right. That is where my Easter eggers are. And I come in the back gate and I have a coop. My first coop was inside the garden fence on the left here. So that's where my Plymouth barred rocks are. So this garden wagon gets used extensively. I still have some building materials for my shelving and stuff. My gardening bench that I need to build in the greenhouse here. And of course we still have to finish it. So first I have some of my herbs. This is my chives out here. My dill, of course, it's ready to harvest. Another bucket of chives over here. And then we come in to the greenhouse. So on the left here, I have a couple of cherry tomatoes, but they're really big for cherry tomatoes. They're about 1.5 inches round. I mean, like across. And these are pink bumblebee. I did purchase them because they are a cherry tomato and because they're organic. But every single one splits. As they're starting to ripen, they split. So I will not be planting that variety again. Next we have our favorite tomatoes, although they're looking very sad right now. I just did a huge harvest, so there's no red ones on it. So the tomatoes here in the greenhouse are our Jet Stars. This is our favorite eating tomato. It's a nice juicy tomato. And in the bottom here, basil is a great partner to plant with tomatoes. They love each other. So that's where I planted my basil. I also have some marigolds in here, and these help to deter pests. Behind the tomatoes, I have bell peppers, and in the first bucket, it's some orange bells that I started from seed. I had a hard time with my seeds this year. They didn't start out too good. So I ended up having to buy most of my bell pepper plants. And the next one is a golden sweet pepper. Again, I just harvested, so I don't have any that are completely ripe. But they taste so good. And the next is the Golden California Wonder. It's a real popular one. Also very good. And I have 2 buckets of those, so there's 3 plants in the first bucket and 4 plants in the second bucket. And they're starting to produce pretty good. This bucket is my celery. And in the winter, when I cut it, I will harvest it up a couple of inches and leave the stalks at the bottom. And these will regrow. So I'm hoping to have celery all winter long. This bucket here is Red Knight. Of course, they're green right now because they're not ripe. And this bucket is 2. So there was 3 in that bucket, but 1 died. So 1's coming back. The 2 had almost died. And there also is a marigold in each of those 2 buckets. This is also a marigold getting ready to bloom, looks like. And these are all red bell peppers. Can you tell which is our favorite? Reds. Also, going back on the other side of the greenhouse, this is an interesting plant. This is a toothache plant. And when you have a toothache, you take the flour and put it on your tooth and it will numb it. The leaves work also if you chew them, but the flowers are best. So I need to start harvesting and drying those so that I have them for emergency use. And this is my sage plant. It's looking really good, so I need to do a harvest on it soon. And my rosemary plant as well. So right now I have in the freezer, ready to go in the freeze dryer, 4 full trays of basil from these plants over here. Next here I have my chamomile. It's looking pretty sad. I think it's nearing its end. I didn't really get around to harvesting it, but it smells divine. I'm not sure if you're supposed to use the stems and leaves too, or just the flowers. So if you know, please, this is the first time I've grown it, please let me know in the comments below. This one here is lemon balm. Again, I'm way past harvest, so I really need to cut these back so I have the fresh growth, and then I can harvest those while they're still green instead of when they get like this and they're old and spent. Same here, this is my mint plant. Got some wonderful new growth here, and even these are tall so I could harvest them, but these over here I just need to cut back. So things with all of our projects this year have just gotten way behind, and a lot's not getting done. Down here in the greenhouse right now, I have a mess to clean up. It's stuff from the spring when I was planting. A lot of pots and stuff. I do need to get these washed up with soap and water and stored for next year, or even for this fall when I start some stuff for the greenhouse, which I need to be starting before too long. As I walk out the greenhouse, on my left I have a picnic table, which has a mess on it right now. I use these and I keep them all over the garden for harvesting. This was up here just because I dumped water out of it. We had a lot of rain the other day. This was my cauliflower and cabbage garden. Looks pretty sad. Bugs got to it a lot. But I am able to harvest. I am getting quite a few good heads of cabbage out of it. I just have to take the outer leaves off, and then they've been really good. So I have cabbage in the house right now. I have a bunch I need to harvest. But I need to get this cauliflower out of here and just get these plants put on the compost pile down at the bottom of the hill. I have some more cabbage starting to really head over here in the buckets. Most of the broccoli has been harvested. Again, these plants I need to get all taken out of the beds and put down on the compost. The kale is pretty well finished. It does keep getting little fresh like babies on it, baby leaves, so these would still be good to eat. The big ones would be not so good. But those are going to be pulled out before too long too. I need to do a lot of work on my poor banana peppers. The plants that were looking so vibrant, they're getting green again, but they really looked bad here, losing their leaves and such. So I have a vitamin spray I need to get sprayed on them, and it looks like I need to do another harvest too. And I just harvested some yesterday, but a bunch of them grew huge. Well, it is so hot and humid here. These are my green bell peppers. I wanted them separate than the ones in the greenhouse. A, because I ran out of room, but B, because I want to remember these are all the green ones, so I'm not waiting for them to turn color. That's my lonely zucchini plant. The squash bugs have gotten them. I have only got one squash off it. I tried planting additional ones, and they're just not coming up. So, unfortunately, the squash bugs are really taking a toll on my yellow squash as well. It's producing super well for us. I'm going to take a few more out of it But probably within a couple weeks, I'm going to go ahead and pull these and burn them. Because of all the infestation, you know, I don't want to keep just adding more. So I'll pull these out and put them in a wheelbarrow, take them to the other end of the property, other side of it, and burn those. Up here along the fence is my Amish paste tomatoes. They're looking really sad. First of all, I didn't get these transplanted from the buckets into the big tubs. So, you know, roots are coming out the bottom and everything else. They're looking very sad. I just ran out of soil. Our soil here is all clay and rock. And so we have to buy bags of soil, you know, that I usually get from Home Depot. And I just haven't had the time or the money, honestly, to get more. I had 2 pallets at the beginning of the spring, and I used all of that up, filling the tubs in the greenhouse and what I could along the fence here. So it just takes a lot of time to get our garden built up. It's very expensive in the beginning because of the soil and the compost that I buy. Here's another one that didn't get transplanted. This one did, but doesn't have a lot of places for the tomatoes to grow, so I'm going to tie them up along the fence probably. I don't know what else to do with that. And I haven't really been on a good feeding regimen that I should be with them. I usually like to feed my stuff every couple weeks anyway. But that hasn't happened. I do have to water them every single day because in the tubs it drains so much and they need, you know, they'd really dry out. So again, here's 4 more that never got actually planted in the tubs. On a positive note, my little baby cabbage is looking good over here. So I did plant 2 different kinds of cabbage. One is the round heads, like this. And one is the looser leaf heads, like this one. And they kind of grow more into a point than round. Okay. So as I walk down the main aisle in the garden, these are elderberry plants that I started this year. I got starts from a friend, and they have really taken off. Elderberries grow extremely fast, and so these will probably start producing in about 5 years or so. And they will continue growing shoots out around them if you don't cut them down. This is my raspberries, totally out of hand. Again, usually after they're done bearing, I would come in here and tie them up. I have wires ran horizontally. But I think this winter, when I started, I only had like 12 plants in this whole thing. And you can see how much they have expanded. So my plan is, hopefully, to dig all of these out of here actually and replant them on the outside of the garden fence. So I basically border around the garden fence. I haven't decided yet. I'm probably going to put down weed block and then put them down in between. Or burn holes so they don't, you know, keep spreading too much. But I want to break these apart and try and get them more manageable. It's kind of hard to get in there. It worked really well for the first 3 years. This is like the 4th year, I think, that I've had them here. So they just basically have outgrown this method. Again, they're raised beds, so they take a lot of water. I do have an automatic watering system on them. And then over to the right is my strawberries. You may see piles like this from time to time. I do sweep them up and get them out of here because that's what causes more weeds to grow if there's any dirt. These were weeds and grass that I took out of my towers this morning as I weeded those. I definitely need to get in here and clean out my strawberries in the beds. They're getting pretty bad with weeds. So I started taking the netting off over there this morning. I'm going to take it off and store it for a while so I can get all of the weeds and all of the dead growth out of here. That way these dead leaves aren't the ones that are soaking up the water. The plants will actually get the water. I don't know if you can see it, but I have a tape drip system through here. And originally I had these in mounds, 2 rows mounded. Over time, the dirt's kind of filled in with the rain and everything else in the middles. So that kind of feature went away. So I'm probably going to need to add at least 1 more tape to each bed for watering, if not 2. Okay, I am currently editing this video, but it was so nice today compared to how it's been. The humidity was down a good bit, so I was able to get out here and get most of the strawberries cleaned out. All the weeds out, and you'll see there's lots and lots of dried leaves and dead strawberries, and that's normal because I've had these strawberries this is the 4th year, and every year the original plants got bigger, and then once I start putting off runners, they die. So I had a lot of dead ones this spring, but I had overabundance of strawberry plants. I started off with 20 strawberry plants in each bed, and I took out over 100 early this spring, and you can see I have well more than 20 in each bed still, plus I think I figured there was 50 something in each tower here. I did lose some of them in the towers, so I'll need to replant some of those, but I just wanted to give you a quick view of, what was required for me to clean up these strawberries. So all the weeds out, most of the dead stuff out. I still have some in that bed over there to do, but I have to stop and get this video edited so you can see it. This is the main aisle in our garden. That's why it is so wide, so I can get through here easily with the wheelbarrow. So we'll start off to the right. So this right side is our cucumbers, and I like to grow them vertically versus horizontally because honestly I'm getting old and it's much easier to pick them that way. Oops. So I usually come on this other side here where I can see them more. I did harvest last night, so there's not going to be a lot in here. So this row up to, well, at least 3/4 of it, if not a little bit more, is the Marketmore cucumbers. And then these lighter, different shaped leaves, these are Armenian cucumbers, and they're a ridged cucumber. They grow up to 2 or 3 feet long, and they're very good for pickling too, because they are not real seedy. So I harvested my first one of those last night. I haven't really done harvest videos. If that's something that you want, please let me know in the comments below. Usually I'm just so busy I just don't have time to film. So I have to make time to find items to film that I think you might be interested in and educational, helpful. Okay, let's go back up here and we will check out the next row. Okay, so the row on the left of the cucumbers here is my green beans. And these are a Blue Lake pole bean. A couple years ago, I did grow bush beans, and they did really well. Last year, I didn't get any beans. The rabbits kept eating my plants before we was able to finish and rabbit-proof the fence around the garden. So somehow I ended up with a couple cucumbers came up in my green beans. So I say I have a cucumber here ready to pick. I'll get that later. And one of the reasons I do so many cucumbers is, I like to do a lot of relishes. I don't really need to do pickles this year, but I will need to make a bunch more sweet relish. So that will be a video at some point. But these are my Blue Lake beans, and I'm going to have to get a ladder to climb on the top here, because I don't remember them ever growing that tall when I was a kid. We had poles, and they grew like 6 feet tall. So, interesting. Plus, I try to feed them where they're kind of start growing back over here, down in the bottom. Again, I have an automatic watering system set up, because I spend a lot of time watering, but this helps. So this system here in the in-ground bed comes on at 5:30 in the morning and waters for an hour. I might have to check the time, make sure it's an hour. If not, I might have to increase that, because it is a very slow drip process. So in the next row, it too is beans, but originally I had peas planted there this spring, and once the peas came out, I did plant the green beans. So these green beans are a few weeks younger than those. And this row and this row was actually planted at the same time. This was planted as corn that did not come up. So I was really disappointed, because it was peaches and cream corn, and that's a really good sweet corn. But either something got on my seed or they just didn't come up. And even my green beans, you can see very few came up compared to how many holes I have. So I'm probably going to go back and try and plant a few more green beans, because we are completely out on the pantry shelf, and I would like to get a lot put back on it. So hopefully, again, I'm going to have to replant some. And this row, oh my goodness, it's way taller than me. So I'm going to end up having to get a ladder to start picking those too. But this is my row of okra. And there's only 2 of us, and I have a whole row. So I do have a couple videos out. One is canning, which I'll use that for gumbo. And the second is freezing and freeze drying. So check those videos out in the playlist. But the okra has to be picked every single day. And this grew since yesterday and is ready to be picked already. So okra loves heat and lots of water, and that must have been one I missed up here. Oh my goodness. So I will just cut those off and dry them out and use them for seed, because I really like this okra. It really grows well. And aren't the blooms so pretty? Let's see if I'm trying to see if I can get it there. It's hard to see the screen in all the sun. So that whole row is okra. And in the past, when I grew okra, it pretty much just grew it on the stalk all the way up as it kept growing. But this has several branch stalks that come off of it, and they also have it. So this one plant has the main stalk, plus it looks like 2 or 3 other stalks that are producing. So I am getting a ton of okra. But, you know, next year I might not be able to get any. It just depends. Okay, so look at this. Oh my gosh. I don't know if you saw the video when I planted this, but I only planted 4 pumpkin plants and 4 watermelon plants. And then these 2 things over here were surprise visits that came up in my blueberry bed. And I didn't know what they were for sure. I didn't know if they were squash or pumpkin, or, you know, when their plants are small, they look pretty much the same. So I planted them in here, and they are a huge, fast-growing cucumber. And I basically just keep those to feed the chickens and the pigs. And if I get too many of the others, they also get more treats. So we do have watermelons. I have 1 harvested that's in the house. And then hopefully you can see these over here. So there's a couple, and I don't know if you can see that pumpkin in there hiding. So I got a pumpkin turning orange there. I have one turning more orange down there. But for all these vines, I don't see that many. Oh, I have a huge watermelon over there. Didn't even know that one was over there. Walking down the path behind the raspberries. This is my row of blackberries. Again, I need to get in there and train these. I started cleaning them up, taking out the canes that bloomed and provided berries this year because they die off, and all these new canes that came up are the ones that will bear fruit next year. So I do need to get out here and get them tied up to the wires. There's always lots to do on a homestead. This row down here is blueberry bushes that I added this spring. This one's doing phenomenal. I don't know why it's doing so much better than the others. And I got a few weeds I need to pull too. So buckets down here, these are also blueberry plants that I planted this year. More of my watermelon. These are the same watermelon plants that were planted clear up there right behind the okra. And they grew clear down here. And there's a watermelon over there. I don't know if you can see it in the mass, but it's over there. So I see the squash bugs are coming down here too. This is what the eggs look like. Right here. These little orange speckles that look like jewels. Those are squash bug eggs. So when I take all of this out, it will all get burnt. It will not go in compost. And here's another watermelon down here. These I thought were going to be the small watermelons, but they've gotten pretty big. I'm trying to keep up. That blueberry's looking pretty sad. Oops, here's a weed. This blueberry isn't getting too much room either. But look at my pumpkin down here. So these are the jack-o'-lantern pumpkins, but guess what? I don't raise pie pumpkins. I raise these and make them into pie pumpkin. So there's not all that many for this many vines. And you can see the squash bugs is trying to kill off some of the vines. So I hope they stay alive long enough to finish growing out my pumpkins. Like I said, I've seen one here, one over there, and this. I've only seen maybe 3 or 4 pumpkins in this whole mess. Oh, there's a big one. Hopefully I'm pointing in the right section. But when they're green and the stuff is so thick and heavy, you don't see them. Now that a lot of it's dying back, I can see them. A sea of this. I had no idea. When I've planted stuff like this before, it did not grow that far. Because I've planted watermelons in the same area, except for at this end. And we used to have a fence that grew that was along here, because all of this has been added, expansion. And they never grew that much out of the garden. So, I guess the soil in the garden's getting better and better. Oh, I see another pumpkin back there. It's just starting to turn orange. I don't know if it's showing up on camera or not. So with that, I think 4. I mean, and you know, oh, here's one right here too, a green one. So there's 2 right here. I haven't seen the pollinators out like I have in the past, so I'm kind of worried about that. I used to have tons of honeybees around, and I'm not seeing them. And I'm wondering if that's why I'm not getting near the produce on these plants that I should be getting. Again, I have an automatic watering system. If you're interested in that, when I planted the blueberries, I did do one on the setting up the automatic watering system. Oh, we've got a watermelon clear over here, out here by its lonesome. But see, this weed block is so nice because this just grows out over the top of it, but it's all growing from those little holes, 4-inch holes that I planted up there. And that's where it's getting its water from. These are heavy drinkers. Of course, watermelon has a lot of water. So I'm watering them twice a day. I have it on the automatic watering system early morning, and I've been turning it on for another hour in the evening. It is just so hot and humid. We've been having triple digit and are today and the rest of the week. With a heat index, the highest we've seen this year is 129. Insane that it can get that hot. So we're coming back by the blueberries and back to where the picnic table was. As I mentioned, these are all the canes and stuff that grew and bore berries this year. So I have this one little section cleaned up. These are all the good canes for next year. And as you can see, the next 2 sections I have not cleaned out yet. So I still need to get that done. So if you're enjoying this type of video, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and share our videos on your social media. It's the best way you can help us to grow our channel. Thank you so much for watching Jimmy Branch Homestead. Take care and God bless.